Hello, my name is Tom Carhill. The date's 17th of the 10th, 2013. I want to speak about something that I think some people overcomplicate. It's very simple. It's the difference between a civil law jurisdiction and a common law jurisdiction. Right now, I'm English. I'm making this video from an Anglo-Saxon based law system, which in my experience, they're all common law systems, to the best of my knowledge anyway. So America, England, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland, all of those, like all the British Isles, they're all common law jurisdictions. Right now, if you take it from an English perspective, if you're in England, you obviously get civil courts and criminal courts. So for instance, if you go to your county court as opposed to your magistrate's court, if you go to your county court, like for small claims and that type of stuff, or you go to your high court, but you're in the civil section of it, that there is sometimes crossovers, but that will be a civil case. That's to do with owing people money. Possession is 9/10 of the law, something where no criminality has happened. Now there is a crossover, like in the Queen's Bench and stuff like that, and like of course you get situations where you're allowed to go to the magistrate's court, or you can go to the Crown Court. And if you go to the Crown Court, and you can get like a jury and stuff like that, whereas you couldn't get a jury for a civil case unless it's a very specific type of civil case. For instance, defamation cases, you can get a jury, that type of stuff. But anyway, that can be a confusion. So what I'm trying to say is, don't get confused about the fact that in England you get civil courts and civil law. That is, when it's in England, it's all under the common law jurisdiction still. It's just a delineation internally. Externally, if you're talking about the actual overall legal system, which encompasses it all, the umbrella, in England we have a common law system. Now, so I went through all the countries that have a common law system, which are basically all of the Commonwealth, Anglo-Saxon type countries, like England, America, Scotland, Wales, Australia, New Zealand, all of that. Now, civil law jurisdictions are in place in Italy, France, Spain, all of the big Western European countries. They've all got a civil law system. Now, and this is what it all comes down to. The difference between, and this is the key difference between a civil law jurisdiction and a civil law jurisdiction and a common law jurisdiction. In a common law jurisdiction, you are allowed to do anything you want unless it is negatively, if you like, unless you're not allowed to do it. So it's like a negative. The law deals in negatives. You must not do this. So there'll be a law saying, like the Theft Act, saying you're not allowed to steal, that type of stuff. In a civil law jurisdiction, the law actually prescribes positively what you're allowed to do. So basically, you're dealing with the difference between, in a common law jurisdiction, you're allowed to do whatever you want, and in a unless it's specifically you're denied the right to do it, or but in a civil law jurisdiction, you're not allowed to do anything unless you're allowed to do it. So it's kind of like a benefit. So it's like the almighty state is giving you a benefit. So effectively, when it really boils down to it, that's the difference. It's the difference between rights. You're allowed to do anything you want unless you're not allowed to do it, specifically for a good reason, normally. And in a common law and in a civil law jurisdiction, you're not allowed to do anything unless you've got the almighty state has given you the sort of the privilege of being allowed to do it. And obviously, because they have quite airy-fairy language, sort of saying you're allowed to live your life, blah blah blah, that like it's actually quite open, because it'd have to be open, because otherwise it'd have to say you are allowed to breathe, you're allowed to walk, you're allowed to twitch, you're allowed to pick your nose. It would become ridiculous, and it'd be obvious what they're doing. But there is a very, very important difference there, and that is the main difference. So it's the difference between allowed to do whatever you want to do unless you're not allowed to do it, unless it specifically says you're not allowed to do it. Civil law jurisdiction, you're not allowed to do anything unless they allow you to do it. How nice of them. That's the difference. Thanks a lot.